Digital games are a much more frequent thing nowadays. With the internet being the way it is now and digital storefronts on the rise, smaller developers are finding it much easier to release their games to the public directly. Even the most harebrained ideas of games get released, some to even critical acclaim. There are games out there involving human disguised octopi, simulations where the main entity you control is a goat, and bread, who must do everything in its power to become toast. Now, on this show, I haven't done a whole lot of digital games, and I know it's a disservice because there's some great stuff out there, and I am looking to fix that in the coming time. But when a digital game gets a physical release, and therefore a box,
Shovel Knight was released on PC and Nintendo systems in mid-2014, with other systems getting released later in the year or in 2015. You are the Shovel Knight, a do-gooder/questing maniac who roams the land with his partner Shield Knight. As the game explains, Shield Knight gets kidnapped by some unknown entity, and after a deep depression, he steals his shovel to take on the biggest challenge ever, the Enchantress and her Order of No Quarter.
Yacht Club definitely shows their love for the 8-bit gaming era, and Shovel Knight harkens back to the days when levels were two-dimensional, bosses were puzzles in and of themselves, and games came in physical packages. I was actually so impressed, I bought it twice.
Shovel Knight takes old-school gaming and brings it into modern times without making it seem all gimmicky or unoriginal. Granted, everything in terms of gameplay, graphics, and sound are all from the 8-bit era of gaming. Pretty much all of the mechanics are borrowed from titles everyone else has heard of, like Zelda, Castlevania, and Mega Man. Heck, even the color palette looks like it was built off a Nintendo, right down to the near lack of yellow. But it seems new. It feels new. So someone who has never touched an 8-bit system or prior will still feel right at home. Of course, I can't forget about the music. The man behind Mighty Switch Force, DuckTales Remastered, and Double Dragon Neon, Jake Vert Kaufman, is back, and he composed the near entirety of the soundtrack using the MIDI instrument base available for the NES and Famicom. Not to be outdone, two of the tracks were actually done by Manami Matsumae, a veteran in the game music industry in Japan. Her portfolio is vast, ranging from NES classics like Mega Man to arcade titles like Final Fight and Magic Sword.
Apparently, she also likes horse racing a lot, because she's done a whole lot of Derby Stallion titles. Yeah, I agree with you, Cat. I got nothing.
You want extras? Shovel Knight is chock full of extra content, including the recently released Plague of Shadows campaign, which is a free update for the digital release. You also get a ton of challenges, which will test your skills. PlayStation 3 and 4 owners get a specific boss fight against Kratos from God of War, and Xbox owners will get one against the Battletoads for some reason. Anyway, Nintendo systems don't get specific boss fights, but through the Shovel Knight amiibo, exclusive content and even co-op gameplay are unlocked.
Which will require me yet again to buy more of these toys. I thought I was done with these things. Speaking of gripes, what problems did I have with this game?
My pedantic nature starts to show with this gripe, the use of the pogo shovel. I'm not actually sure if I called it that or if other people did, but I had this really odd idea that the pogo mechanic from DuckTales would work. This is actually wrong, and this attack actually works more like Link's down thrust from Zelda 2. It's a problem I've had to deal with many times, but I don't think it's really a fault of the game itself. It's more of a misunderstanding that I've had to correct. A lot of the problems I have with the game stem from the gameplay itself. There are a lot of places where enemies are placed in such strategic spots that can really impede progress. There may be points where you play and accidentally knock an object out of reach, so you have to die and restart from a checkpoint. To borrow a line from another show, sometimes you need pixel-perfect precision to get to where you need to, and the insta-death spikes and bottomless pits just add to all the frustration.
I lost count how many times I was screaming expletives at the screen because I got hit into a pit, or I landed on those insta-kill spikes, or some other thing. It's a good thing there isn't a live system in place, otherwise I'd probably have to replace a controller. Or 5.
But here's the thing. The problems I have with Shovel Knight are all problems from 1985 to 1993. Stuff that just made those types of games challenging. And that's really what this game is. A game that has its roots firmly planted somewhere in between 1985 to 1993. But made in 2014.
As I said earlier, Yacht Club definitely shows their love for the 8-bit gaming era, and considering my history with games, they definitely hit one of their target audience with me. Now, this is going to be a little bit different because now we're hitting 2 different price points, one for the digital and one for the physical. So, no matter the system, and whether you want bits or you want a box, is Shovel Knight worth your cash?
The digital release of Shovel Knight is $15 across all the different storefronts. The physical release of Shovel Knight came out on PlayStation 4, Wii U, and 3DS, and all 3 of these are $25 each. With that said, considering what you get and how well the game plays, I can actually say that it's worth full price. The digital game by itself is chock full of content, and $15 is a bargain considering you now get 2 full campaigns. But the physical release? It comes with a nice box, a really big manual, and a code for the original soundtrack. I feel this is definitely worth the extra $10, but no matter how you get the game, this is a must-have in anyone's library.
Shovel Knight is one of those games that really surprised me, even though I thought I knew what I was getting into. What I got was a romp through memory lane, a whole boatload of anger management issues with all the screaming and whatnot, and new and old school gameplay blended together into a nice thick smoothie of video game goodness. As I mentioned before, I bought the game twice on 2 different systems, and now I'm contemplating buying the 3rd one, not to mention the Shovel Knight amiibo. I'm almost curious to see if they'd challenge themselves to put this entire game on a Nintendo cartridge, but I think that's out of the realm of possibility. Or is it?